Let us discuss about the antiviral drugs in relation to their life cycle, mechanism of action of the antiviral drugs, and classification and uses of the antiviral drugs. Today we are going to deal with the non-retroviral drugs, including a word about the SARS-CoV-2 virus that is causing the present responsible for the present global pandemic, COVID-19. And so today we are going to discuss about the non-retroviral drugs. And in our next discussion, we will continue. We'll discuss separately about the antiretroviral drugs. So if you see the viral infections, they are the leading causes of morbidity as well as mortality worldwide. And the present situation, we are aware what the things that we are facing in this COVID-19 pandemic, because this COVID-19 pandemic represents the greatest global public health crisis of this generation since the pandemic that was that is the influenza outbreak, which took place in 1918. Now, this viral infections, the society controls the spread of the viral infections. We are conducting many public health measures and the use of prophylactic vaccines. So these are the primary means by which the society controls the spread of the viral infections. Just like in present COVID-19 pandemic, we are advocating the social distancing, mask. We are using mask, sanitizers, and also washing hands for 20 seconds. So all these health measures are done, and prophylactic vaccines, they are the primary means by which the society controls the spread of the viral infections. Now, if we see the antiviral drug development, it is instrumental in saving millions of lives each year, and it also improves the quality of life of those with the viral illnesses. So viral replication and viral life cycle, currently these are targeted by the antiviral drugs. So we can see that the antiviral drugs, they are used for treatment. By definition, the antiviral drugs, they are used for treatment of the viral infections. And they can also be used as prophylaxis to provide protection for a short period against certain infections. Also, the treatment should be started early in the infection so that the antiviral drug, they are effective in inhibiting the replicating viruses. Now, some of the infections, they require monotherapy, like acyclovir we are using for the herpes simplex virus for a brief period of time. Then some infections, they may require dual therapy, like we are using interferon alpha and ribavirin for the hepatitis C virus. And dual therapy, we are using it for a prolonged period of time. And also there can be the multiple drug therapy, where we are using a number of drugs, and these combination regimes, they are used for the treating the HIV infection for a long period of time. So we can see that in chronic illnesses like the viral hepatitis and HIV, the potent inhibition of the viral replication is very, very crucial for limiting the extent of the disease. So let us try to understand what is the virus. The viruses, these are the intracellular parasites which are depending on the host cells for their food, growth, and multiplication. So virus, if you see, it is a small particle. So the virus exists as a very small particle which is known as a virion, and this virion consists of the nucleic acid genome, which is packaged into a virus encoded protein shell. So the nucleic acid genome, they are situated within a shell, protein shell, and this protein shell is known as the capsid. In some of the viruses, the capsid is surrounded by the envelope. So what is this envelope? The envelope is a lipid bilayer membrane that contains the viral encoded envelope proteins. So we have the genome, and after the genome, it is covered by the capsid, And capsid, in some viruses, it is surrounded by the envelope. So the envelope is a lipid bilayer membrane which contains the virus encoded envelope proteins. So the viral genomes, they can consist of either DNA or RNA, and they can be single or the double stranded. So here we can see the structure of the virion. The whole infective particle is termed as the virion. And the viral structure, if you see, the viruses are the small infective agents, and these agents, they consist of the nucleic acid, that is the RNA or the DNA. This nucleic acid is enclosed in a protein coat, and this protein coat is known as the capsid, as you can see in the diagram. The coat plus the nucleic acid together, they are known as the nucleocapsid. And the capsomere, this is the morphological protein unit of the coat. So the capsid contains the morphological protein unit, and this is known as the capsomere. Now in some viruses, in addition, they are having the lipoprotein envelope, and this lipoprotein envelope, if you see, that is also having a lot of important function, that some viruses, they may have this envelope, and this envelope, they contain the antigenic viral glycoproteins, as well as these envelope, they can also contain the host phospholipids, which they acquire when the virus nucleocapsid, it buds, it tries to move out, or it tries to bud through the nuclear membrane or the plasma membrane of the host cell. So during that process, the envelope not only contains the antigenic viral glycoprotein, but it may also contain the host phospholipids. So let us see and understand that we have different types of the DNA and RNA viruses. There are some examples of the pathogenic viruses, and here we can see that the DNA virus, like the herpes simplex virus, which is causing the chicken pox, shingles, cold sores, glandular fever, so varicella zoster virus. So the herpes group of virus, like herpes simplex virus, varicella zoster virus, and the cytomegalovirus, these are all DNA viruses. Also the hepatitis B virus is a DNA virus, and smallpox virus, that is pox viruses, and these are the DNA viruses. Also adenovirus, which causes the sore throat and conjunctivitis, this is also the DNA virus. And papilloma virus, which cause the warts, these are DNA viruses. Then coming to the RNA viruses, so this are few examples of the pathogenic viruses. The RNA viruses, we can have examples like the rabies virus, that is rhabdoviruses. Then the paramyxoviruses like the measles virus and mumps virus. Then rubella virus, that is the German measles. Then dengue virus, yellow fever virus, these are all RNA viruses, as well as picorna viruses like the poliomyelitis virus, this is a RNA virus, and HIV virus, as well as the influenza virus, that is the orthomyxoviruses. These are the RNA viruses, and also arena viruses, which are causing the meningitis and hemorrhagic fever. These are all RNA viruses. Besides this, the respiratory syncytial virus, which is responsible for severe lower respiratory tract infections. This belongs to the orthopneumovirus. This is a RNA virus, respiratory syncytial virus. Then also Ebola virus, which causes hemorrhagic fever. This is a RNA virus. And besides this, presently we are having the coronavirus, that is the MERS virus, Middle East respiratory syndrome virus, and the severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2. This is also the this coronavirus. This is also the RNA viruses. Then coming to the history of the antiviral drugs. The antiviral chemotherapy, the progress started early in the 1950s, and earlier it was a result of the search for anti-cancer drugs, which generated several new compounds, and these new compounds were capable of inhibiting the viral DNA synthesis. So the first generation antiviral agents were introduced in the 1950s was the 5-iododeoxyuridine and trifluorothymidine. Now these two agents, they had poor specificity. That is, they inhibited not only the viral DNA, but they also inhibited the host cell DNA. That is why they were very, very toxic for systemic use. However, these agents were effective topically for treating the herpes keratitis. Then vidarabine, which was originally an anti-cancer drug in 1960, and the antiviral activity was shown, and it was found to be active as an antiviral drug in 1964 against the herpes virus. So it is mainly used for herpes simplex virus and varicella zoster virus, as well as against other viruses like the pox virus, rhabdoviruses, hepatitis B viruses, and certain RNA tumor viruses. The vidarabine, it has been used as a 3% ophthalmic ointment in the treatment of the acute keratoconjunctivitis and recurrent superficial keratitis, which is caused by the herpes simplex virus 1 and herpes simplex virus 2. And because of the need for IV dosing and hospitalization, this vidarabine, this has been superseded by acyclovir. So what should be the properties of an ideal antiviral drug? It should have greater selectivity. That is, non-selective inhibitors of the viral replication, they may interfere with the host cell function, and this may result in the toxicity. So these antiviral drugs, they should also have higher potency. Also, there should be low toxicity to the host. So the antiviral drug must be more specific for the viral DNA as compared to the host DNA. And there should be in vivo stability. Also, it should kill the latent viruses as well, because it is found that most of the antiviral drugs, they are effective in inhibiting the replicating virus, and they are less effective against the latent or the non-replicating viruses. Basically, if the antiviral drug is also taking care of latent viruses, then it will do well. Although the most of these antiviral drugs are only affecting the replicating viruses, and they have less effect against the latent viruses. The antisera and the vaccines, they act by inactivating the free virus particles. Now coming to the viral life cycle. In the viral life history, we see the viruses are intracellular parasites and with no metabolic machinery of their own. So in order to replicate, they have to attach, and also they have to enter a living host cell. So this living host cell can be another animal or a plant or a bacteria. And by entering into the living host cell, they can use its metabolic process. So the binding site on the virus, these are the polypeptides which are there on the capsid or on the envelope. And so this is the binding site on the virus. The virus has the polypeptide which is there present on the capsid or on the envelope, and it has to bind. So there has to be receptors on the host cell. The receptors on the host cell to which the virus attaches, these receptors are the normal membrane constituents, and these membrane constituents are the receptors. As we know, there are different receptors on the host cell. These receptors can be receptors for the cytokines, receptor for the neurotransmitter or hormones, or receptor like the ion channels, or receptors for the membrane glycoproteins. So these receptors, different receptors, they are present on the host cell, and they will act as the binding of the virus. The virus will attach on these receptors. So with many viruses, what happens is the receptor virus complex, once it is formed, it enters the cell by the receptor mediated endocytosis, and because of this, the viral coat is removed. So we know the process of uncoating takes place. So once inside the host cell, once the virus enters inside the host cell, the nucleic acid of the virus, this is then because of the uncoating, this nucleic acid of the virus, it now uses the host cell machinery for synthesizing, for further synthesis of the nucleic acid and proteins, and also manufacturing of the new virus particles. So we can see that the virus has to first attach itself, then it has to enter. After penetration into the host cell, the this nucleic acid of this virus, it will now utilize the host cell machinery, and it will use the host cell machinery for synthesizing nucleic acids and proteins and manufacturing new virus particles. So this is how the further steps will take place. So let us try to understand the different steps which take place in the viral replication. So almost all the viruses, they have the same general life cycle for the replication. So the first stage we can see is the stage of attachment, and in this the attachment of the virus to the receptor on the host cell surface takes place. As you can see here in the diagram, the first step is the viral fusion with the host cell, and this is the stage of attachment. Then the second stage is the stage of penetration, or where the entry of the virus takes place through the host cell membrane. So in attachment, in the first step, you can see attachment of the virus to the receptor on the host cell membrane. This is mediated by proteins which are there on the viral surface, and these proteins, they will bind specifically to the host membrane. Like we have example of enfuvirtide, which is entry inhibitor, and this the entry inhibitor, so it will inhibit the penetration. And in attachment, we have another drug, Maraviroc. This is anti-HIV drug, and this has in the HIV viral envelope, it contains the glycoprotein 120. This transmembrane protein, it mediates the binding and attachment of the HIV virus to the host cell which is expressing the CD4 and the chemokine receptors such as the CCR5 or CXCR4 receptors. So on binding on this receptor, so the attachment of the virus, HIV virus, to the host cell, it takes place because of the presence of the glycoprotein GP120 on the viral HIV viral envelope. So this is how the attachment takes place by drug Maraviroc. Then the entry of the virus takes place. Entry of virus to the host cell membrane takes place. The virus undergoes entry by crossing the host cell membrane, and in the HIV, what happens is the entry depends on the another envelope protein, and that is the GP41. So this viral envelope protein GP41 is responsible for fusion of the HIV membrane with the target cell. So enfuvirtide is a fusion inhibitor, and it inhibits the penetration of the HIV inside the target cell. So we can see the second stage, that is the stage of entry or the penetration. Then the third stage is the uncoating of the viral nucleic acid. So here we can see that in the stage of uncoating, the virion loses most of its capsid protein, and this losing of the capsid protein is known as the stage of uncoating. And because of losing the capsid protein, the nucleic acid, we know it is the inside the core, and this nucleic acid becomes now available for the transcription. For the retroviruses, uncoating allows reverse transcriptase to take place, but today we are dealing with the non-retroviral drugs. So we have certain RNA viruses like this RNA virus, different RNA viruses like the influenza virus, and also the uncoating takes place. Uncoating is followed by the translation process of translation of the viral RNA. So and after the nucleic acid now becomes available. So there is transcription followed after the stage of uncoating. There is the stage of the nucleic acid now becomes available for the further steps, that is transcription, and then later the translation takes place. So now we after the third stage of uncoating, there comes the stage of the genome replication, or there is the synthesis of the early regulatory protein and formation of the nucleic acid polymerases, which are responsible for the genome replication. Then the fifth stage is the stage of the synthesis of the new viral RNA or the DNA. You can see the fifth stage, that is the nucleic acid synthesis, where the RNA or DNA synthesis takes place, the transcription takes place, and there is synthesis of the new viral RNA or the DNA. Then in the sixth stage, we have the synthesis of the late structural proteins and processing, that is the stage of translation or protein synthesis. This is the stage which is acted upon by the protease inhibitors and other drugs. Also, they can affect the seventh stage is the stage of the assembly or the maturation of the viral particles, and the last stage is the release from the cell. So we have seen that the stage of attachment, stage of entry, and stage of uncoating take place, and the stage of the genome replication. This is a very important stage. In this genome replication, it is seen that this stage requires a supply of ribonucleoside triphosphates and D for RNA viruses and deoxyribonucleoside triphosphates for the DNA viruses. So for DNA viruses, the deoxyribonucleoside triphosphates, this production, it occurs via two pathway. One is the salvage pathway and one is the second is the de novo pathway. Both these pathway, the salvage pathway, it involves the use of the very important enzyme, that is the thymidine kinase, and the de novo pathway, it involves the production of the thymidylate kinase. So we know that there are virus specific enzymes, that is the thymidine kinase, and this is being targeted by the drug like acyclovir, penciclovir, and ganciclovir. These are drugs which are used for herpes, and herpes is a DNA virus. So we can see that thymidine kinase is a virus specific enzyme which is being targeted by this drug. And the second is the de novo pathway. So the de novo pathway is involving the thymidylate kinase. So exploitation of the two-step process, it has led to development of a number of drugs which are very effective and safe antiviral drugs, because what we utilize is the difference between the human and the viral kinases and polymerases. So this allows drugs to take advantage of two different steps in a single pathway. So we are using a drug, for example, acyclovir, and we can see the mechanisms involved. That acyclovir, it acts on this thymidine kinase and there is production of the monophosphates, and this is further acted upon by the host kinases. So the host cellular kinases are responsible for formation of the diphosphate and triphosphate, and we can see here that the production of these nucleoside triphosphates, these triphosphates, they are incorporated into the new viral genomes, by the viral or the cellular polymerases. So the result of this is, we can see that once it is incorporated into the viral, this triphosphate is incorporated into the viral DNA. This is because the action of the acyclovir has started. So this production of triphosphate, once it is incorporated into the viral DNA, it is responsible, it stops the lengthening of the DNA strands. There occurs chain termination, and this terminated DNA, it inhibits the DNA polymerase irreversibly. So this is one way of inhibiting the herpes virus. And in the second step, you can see there is competitive inhibition of the, so it gets incorporated within the viral DNA and affects the DNA strands, terminates the DNA. And the other step is the competitive inhibition of the viral DNA polymerase. So because of that, there is inhibition of the viral DNA synthesis. So we can see how it inhibits the herpes virus DNA polymerase competitively. So acyclovir is preferentially, you can see it is taken up by the virus infected cell, and because of this selective generation of active inhibitor in the virus infected cell, as well as we can see there is greater inhibitory effect on the viral DNA synthesis, because of which acyclovir has a very low toxicity over the for the host cells. It has primarily, it is affecting the metabolic process in the this genome replication in the virus. So this is an important step, and many of the viral proteins which serve as the best targets for antiviral drugs, these are the enzymes which are involved in the genome replication. Also enzymes which are involved in the maturation process, these also are important targets of the antiviral drug. So we have seen the stage of attachment, stage of entry, stage of uncoating, then the stage of the genome replication. Here in this diagram, you can have a, we can revise it again, and we can see that in the stage of attachment and entry, we are having drugs like enfuvirtide, maraviroc, And in the stage of uncoating, we are having the ion channel blockers like amantadine, rimantadine. So then we have the fourth stage we have discussed about the genome replication. And here we have seen the polymerase inhibitors like acyclovir, how it is producing the effect, and it is having low toxicity for the host cell because it is affecting the very preferentially it is being taken up by the virus infected cell, and it has a very good effect on the viral genome replication. Then we come to the fifth stage, and this stage is the stage of the transcription, where the RNA synthesis is going on. So, and then we have the stage of after transcription, we have the sixth stage, and that is the stage of translation, that is the protein synthesis taking place in the host ribosome. So, this picture gives us a very clear image about the viral life cycle and the viral replication process. Now we come to the stage, the seventh stage, and this stage is the stage of assembly and maturation. In the stage of assembly, what happens is the viral proteins that are synthesized intracellularly, they assemble along with the viral genomes within the host cell. So when they assemble with the viral genomes within the host cell, this process is known as assembly. For a number of viruses, the assembly is followed by a process. Some of the viruses, they follow a process which is known as the viral maturation. Now, what is the importance of this viral maturation? The viral maturation is essential for the newly formed virion to become infectious. So the newly formed virion, now it will turn infectious. And this process of viral maturation is typically, it involves cleavage of the viral polyproteins. So the viral polyproteins are formed. Now there will be cleavage of these viral polyproteins by the proteases. So we see during the assembly and maturation process, there is the important use. You can see protease inhibitors. These are also antiretroviral drugs like sacubitril, ritonavir. These are very good drugs, protease inhibitors. They are having an action on the stage of assembly and maturation. And last but not the least, there is the process of the viral egress or the budding and the release. So viral egress and release, viral egress from the cell, it takes place either there is cell lysis or there is the budding through the cell membrane. So budding the cell, it penetrates through the host, the plasma membrane of the host. So budding takes place through the cell membrane. And for influenza virus, the newly formed virion, it requires an additional step of release from the extracellular surface of the host cell membrane. So we have the neuraminidase, which is and then inhibited by the drugs which are there, the neuraminidase inhibitors, zanavivir and oseltamivir, which are used in treatment of the influenza. So we can see, just like in the genome replication, we have seen that the virus enters into the host cell nucleus, and by entering into the host cell nucleus, it gives the direction for generation of the new viruses. Now we are seeing the stage of the transcription and translation, and after that we are seeing the stage of the assembly and maturation, and the virus egress, that is budding and release of the virus taking place. So nearly all the virus, they replicate via the following stages, that is attachment, entry, uncoating, genome replication, transcription, translation, assembly, and the egress. Some of the viruses, they may have additional stages, that is the stage of maturation and stage of release. So we have seen the specific host and viral proteins, they are involved in each of the stages, and difference between the viral and the host proteins at all these different stages, they are all targeted by the antiviral drugs. And also others, besides this stages, that is the stage of genome replication and maturation, where the viral proteins, they are serving as the best targets. So besides these also, the other stages in viral life cycle, they can also be important targets for the antiviral drugs. So we can see here I have summarized the antiviral drugs based on their viral replication steps, and we can see that in viral attachment we are having drug like maraviroc, docosanol, palivizumab. So rock we know is an anti-HIV drug which blocks host cell CCR5 receptor. So the attachment of the virus is inhibited. And docosanol, this is a topical drug used for herpes simplex virus. It is in the form of cream. It is used for herpes virus infection of the face and the mouth. And palivizumab, this is a monoclonal antibody, and it has been used for respiratory syncytial virus causing the severe lower respiratory tract infections. Then enfuvirtide is inhibiting the viral entry. As you know, it's a fusion inhibitor. It inhibits the fusion of viral and the host cellular membrane. This is prevented, and the entry of the virus into the cell is blocked. Then we have seen the stage of uncoating and the drugs amantadine, rimantadine. These are anti-influenza drugs, and they inhibit the replication of influenza A. And rimantadine is much more potent and longer acting than the amantadine. Then in viral genome replication, with this stage we have seen the action of drugs, anti-herpes virus drugs like acyclovir, cidofovir, famciclovir, ganciclovir, foscarnet, idoxuridine. So these are all anti-herpes virus drugs. And besides this, even nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors, non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors, protease inhibitors, these are antiretroviral drugs. They are also affecting the genome replication. And ribavirin, which is being used in hepatitis C virus, and sorivudin. Sorivudin is an antimetabolite. It has antiviral activity against the herpes simplex virus 1, varicella zoster virus, and Epstein-Barr virus. Then in assembly, the stage of transcription. This stage of transcription is being affected by interferons. So we can see interferons are acting on the stage of transcription. They are having multiple sites of action. So interferons are affecting the transcription, translation. Also interferons are also affecting the assembly. So they have multiple site of action. And with that, protease inhibitors, we have also seen earlier that they are affecting the assembly as well as the maturation. Then in budding and release, we have seen the effects of the neuroamidase inhibitors like zanamivir and oseltamivir, which are used in the treatment of influenza. So we can classify the antiviral drugs on the base of mechanism of action. We can see that in the viral attachment and entry, they are being blocked by enfuvirtide, docosanol, and palivizumab, which are enfuvirtide is used in HIV, and docosanol in the herpes simplex virus, and palivizumab in respiratory syncytial virus. Then in the stage of penetration, it is being blocked by interferon alpha, which interferon alpha has a use in the hepatitis C virus. Then in uncoating process, it is being blocked by amantadine, rimantadine. These drugs are used in influenza. And in the viral genome replication, nucleic acid polymerases, these are being targeted by drugs like acyclovir, as well as genome replication is also being targeted by the antiretroviral drugs like zidovudine, which is used in HIV, as well as efavirenz, which is a non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitor. Then also in transcription process, we can see nucleic acid synthesis is being blocked by NRTIs, non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors, non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors, as well as they are also inhibited by acyclovir, as well as foscarnet, which is used for cytomegalovirus infection, and entecavir. Entecavir is a drug used for hepatitis V virus. Then in the stage of translation, we can see late protein synthesis and processing. This is being affected by protease inhibitors. They are being blocked. Also, protease inhibitors are also affecting the assembly. And viral release is being affected by the neuroamidase inhibitors like the zanamivir and oseltamivir. Also, we can see here in this diagram that in influenza, we have two classes of drugs, amantadine, rimantadine. They are acting on the early step of uncoating. Whereas if you see the neuroamidase inhibitors like zanamivir, oseltamivir, these are acting at the later step in the viral life cycle, and both these group of drugs are used in influenza. So this is the classification based on mechanism. There is another classification based on the type of the virus, and since today we are discussing non-retroviral drugs, and so we'll see that these other drugs, anti-herpes virus drugs, so herpes group of virus like the herpes simplex virus 1, herpes simplex virus 2, varicella zoster virus, Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus. So for this we have idoxuridine, trifluridine, acyclovir, valacyclovir, and famciclovir. These are there, and for mainly for the cytomegalovirus we are using ganciclovir, valganciclovir, cidofovir, and foscarnet. Then in anti-influenza drug we are having amantadine, rimantadine. We have already seen their mechanism of action, and uh, neuroamidase inhibitors like oseltamivir, zanamivir, and peramivir. And in anti-hepatitis virus drugs, we have drugs for hepatitis B, that is lamivudine, entecavir, adavovirine, dipovoxil, tenofovir, and talbibudin. For hepatitis C, we have ribavirin, interferon alpha. These are non-selective drugs, whereas we have certain selective drugs for hepatitis C, and that is sofosbuvir, simipravir, daclofenavir, ledipasvir, and valproatovir. So these are the different classification based on mechanism and based on the type of the virus. Now coming to the uses of the antiviral drugs. So we are already aware of drugs like acyclovir, idoxuridine, trifluridine. So acyclovir we can see topically, orally, and IV. It is being used. Topically, it is very useful for the herpes genitalis and herpes simplex virus eye infections. Orally, we are using it for the chicken pox. IV, intravenously, we are giving for the herpes simplex virus encephalitis and herpes zoster in the immunocompromised patients. Idoxuridine and trifluridine, we have seen that topically because they are systemically very toxic. So topically they are used and very useful in the herpes simplex virus keratitis. Then ganciclovir and valganciclovir, they are used for cytomegalovirus as well as for cytomegalovirus. We are also using foscarnet and cidofovir. So this is already listed. And besides this, we have two drugs, famciclovir and valacyclovir. They are used orally for the herpes infection. And we have drugs like amantadine, rimantadine. So these drugs we know they are used orally for the influenza A. And to complete the list, another drug like ribavirin, interferon alpha. These are having non-selective action and they are being used for the hepatitis C virus. And zidovudine is begin orally and it is a nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitor used for HIV infection. So these antiretroviral drugs we'll discuss separately in a later videos. So just a word about the severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, which we are facing right now. We are in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. So at least we are discussing non-retroviral drugs. So we need to have a word about this. So if we see the severe acute respiratory syndrome, there is a report of the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 1, which was reported in 2002 and 2003 in Asia and some part of the world. So this similar virus, the outbreak of this virus, a similar virus is discovered this year in January 2020, and this virus was named the SARS-CoV-2. So we have the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, and this is now the causative agent for the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic or the coronavirus disease 2019. So also we have reports earlier. So besides the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 1, which was we got the reports in 2002 and 2003, there were also reports of the MERS-CoV, that is the Middle East respiratory syndrome coronavirus, in 2012, in 2015, and this MERS is also it is seen that it is a species of the coronavirus which infects the humans, bats, and camels. So it was first reported in 2012, and about countries in the Middle East, like Saudi Arabia, Jordan, United Arab Emirates. These about 20 countries, they were that time it was affected. So now we are facing the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, that is the coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19. And this is a, again, RNA virus, a single-stranded RNA enveloped virus. And the global pandemic of coronavirus disease, this was reported in Wuhan in China in for first time in December 2019. And right now, the more than 35 million reported cases is there, and more than it is very sad, but more than 1 million deaths have taken place worldwide. So uh, it is said that this beta coronavirus, this is similar to the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 1 and the Middle East respiratory syndrome coronavirus. So it's similar to that. This is a beta coronavirus similar to the previous ones, and it is likely to have originated from a bat derived coronavirus which has spread via some unknown intermediate mammal host to the humans. So let us see the virology of the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 and certain drug targets. So the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 is a single-stranded RNA envelope virus, as you can see here in this diagram. And what it does it, we have seen the viral life cycle, and almost all the viruses, they have the similar viral life cycle and the process of the viral replication. So we can understand this also regarding the coronavirus, that the SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus 2, this targets the cell through the viral structural spike protein. So you can see the S protein, it binds to the ACE2 receptor, and after binding to the ACE2 receptor, the virus particle uses the host cell receptor and the endosomes to enter the cell. And in this process, it uses the host type 2 transmembrane serine protease. As you can see here, it is using, and there is one drug, camostate mesylate, which inhibits the TMPRSS2, and it prevents the viral cell entry. So these are the different drug targets which have been, this is a recent uh, reports of drugs which are under research, and some of them, they are currently being used and in the emergency treatment. So we can see that the virus particle uses the host cell receptor and endosomes to enter the cell, and here it is using the host type 2 transmembrane serine protease. So by using it, this facilitates the cell entry via the S protein. And once the virus enters inside the cell, we can see that the viral polyproteins, they are synthesized. So you can see the step of the attachment, step of entry, and then the step of uncoating taking place. And after uncoating, the genome replication, translation, and the transcription and the translation. So all these processes are being taken place. Viral polyproteins are synthesized, and these, they after this, the virus then synthesizes the RNA. We can see the synthesis of the RNA via the RNA dependent RNA polymerase. So different structural proteins are synthesized, and this leads to the completion of the assembly, the stage of assembly, and after that the stage of the release of the virus particles takes place. So these viral life cycle steps, they provide potential targets for the different drugs. And as you can see that we have already seen about the chemostate mesylate, which is targeting the serine protease, and also there are drugs like Arbidol. Arbidol is umefenofir, which is an antiviral drug. It targets the S protein and ACE2 interaction, and it acts as a membrane fusion inhibitor. Then As a part of the drug repurposing, we have certain anti-malarial drug like chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine. They inhibit the viral entry, and also recently we are having the use of anti-parasitic drug also like ivermectin, which is being used as a prophylaxis in the high risk cases and for protection for the healthcare workers. Then, as far as the antiviral therapy is concerned, we can see lopinavir, darunavir. Lopinavir, darunavir, these are inhibiting the chymotrypsin like protease. So, this promising drug targets we for the coronavirus 2 is they are including the non-structural proteins like the 3 chymotrypsin like protease, pepin like protease, and the RNA dependent RNA polymerase. These non-structural proteins, they share homology with the coronaviruses, and we have certain drugs, lopinavir, darunavir, which is being tried, and we have ribavirin, remdesivir, and favipiravir. These are inhibiting the RNA dependent RNA polymerase. So remdesivir, if you see it earlier, it was also used for the Ebola and the MERS virus. And in COVID-19, it is said to shorten the time to take to recover from the infection. It is authorized for the emergency use in most of the countries in the United States, India, Japan, Europe. And besides this, we have favipiravir also and ribavirin. So we can see that most of these drugs are affecting the non-structural proteins. And besides this, other drugs, they are acting on the viral entry. So even chloroquine is acting on the viral entry, as well as chemostat mesylate. This also is under research, and this is also affecting the viral entry. So the other mechanism which is available for us is the immune regulation pathway. And in immune regulation pathway, we have drugs like tocilizumab and sarilumab. These are we have seen that the idea, the rationale of using these two drugs, tocilizumab and certolizumab, these two drugs is as part of the immunomodulatory therapy and affecting the immune regulation pathway. And the rationale for using them is that significant amount of organ damage in the lungs and other organs, this is being caused by the amplified immune response which takes place, and there is the cytokine release which is known as the cytokine storm, and interleukin 6 has been the key driver of this dysregulated inflammation process. So with that idea, these drugs have been um, is being currently being used for the COVID-19. So to conclude, we can say that the viral chemotherapy is quite difficult, and the reasons for this is because antiviral drugs, when we are using it in the therapy, it requires interference with the cellular metabolism in the host. So definitely, because the virus is thriving on the host, so when we try to attack the virus, so the cellular metabolism in the host is also affected. Then secondly is the virustatic. So all the antiviral drugs, mostly they are active against the viruses which are replicating, and they do not affect the latent viruses. So after some time, when the treatment is discontinued, there is the chances of the relapse, and that again poses a problem. And last but not the least, the development of viral resistance, and that is due to the mutation. So greater the suppression of the viral replication with the antiviral drugs, we can achieve better control of the disease. There will be lesser chance of emergence of the drug resistant viruses.